What would you do if you checked into a hotel room that officially didn't exist? How would you react when staff insisted they'd never heard of your room number while you held the key in your hand? And what if you discovered that every previous guest who stayed in that room had disappeared without a trace? My name is David Russo, and I'm a sales representative for a medical equipment company based in Pittsburgh. My job requires constant travel across the Midwest, visiting hospitals and clinics, demonstrating products, closing deals. I spend more nights in hotels than in my own apartment. After 8 years on the road, I've learned which chains are reliable, which booking sites offer the best rates, and how to spot a problematic accommodation before checking in. On November 2nd, I was driving from Cleveland to Indianapolis for a morning meeting. I'd planned to drive straight through, but a massive storm system moved in around 8 p.m., turning the highway into a nightmare of rain and poor visibility. By the time I reached the Ohio-Indiana border, I was exhausted and knew I needed to stop. I pulled off I-70 at a small town called Greenfield, Indiana. Population maybe 20,000, the kind of place that exists purely to service highway travelers. I opened my phone and searched for available hotels. Most were either fully booked or charging premium rates because of the storm, but I found one with availability. The Riverside Motor Lodge, 2.4 miles from the highway, $68 per night. The photos on the booking site showed a typical budget motel. 2-story building with exterior corridors, parking lot in front of the rooms, the classic motor lodge layout from the 1960s. The reviews were mixed, but not terrible. Some complained about outdated decor and thin walls, but others praised the cleanliness and friendly staff. For one night of sleep during a storm, it would be fine. I completed the reservation online, received a confirmation email, and drove to the address. The GPS took me down increasingly rural roads, away from the commercial strips near the highway, into an area of old houses and empty lots. I started to wonder if I'd made a mistake, if this place was as isolated and sketchy as the route suggested. Then I saw it. A weathered sign reading Riverside Motor Lodge, with an arrow pointing down a gravel driveway. The building sat back from the road, partially hidden by overgrown trees. It was exactly as pictured on the website, a 2-story L-shaped structure with rooms facing the parking lot. About a dozen cars were parked outside various rooms, so I wasn't the only guest. The office was in the corner of the L, marked with a neon office sign that flickered irregularly. I parked near it and ran through the rain to the entrance, pulling my overnight bag with me. Inside, the office was small and outdated. Wood-paneled walls, ancient computer on the desk, smell of coffee and cigarettes. A man in his 60s sat behind the counter, reading a paperback novel. He looked up as I entered. "Help you?" "I have a reservation. David Russo." He set down his book and turned to his computer, typing slowly with 2 fingers. After a moment, he frowned. "Don't see a reservation under that name?" "I just booked it an hour ago. Confirmation number is..." I pulled out my phone and showed him the email. "BK47293. He studied my phone, then typed the confirmation number into his system. His frown deepened. "That's not one of our confirmation numbers. Where did you book this?" "Through your website, Riverside Motor Lodge, Greenfield, Indiana. This is the right place, isn't it?" "This is Riverside, but I don't recognize that booking site. We use a different system. Are you sure you didn't book a different hotel by mistake?" I showed him the photos on the booking site, matching them to the view through the office window. "This is definitely the right place, the photos match." Well, no matter. We have rooms available. Let me just set you up fresh." He pulled out a registration card, the old-fashioned paper kind. "That'll be $68 plus tax. Comes to $75.82s. I paid with my credit card and he processed it through an ancient machine that made grinding noises. While I waited, I noticed a wall behind him with rows of key hooks, each labeled with a room number. Most had keys hanging from them. The occupied rooms showed empty hooks. "All right, Mr. Russo. I've got you in room 23, second floor, far end. Quiet spot. away from the ice machine. He handed me an actual metal key attached to a large plastic diamond with 23 printed on it. I looked at the key, then at the confirmation email on my phone. The reservation says room 14. Room 14? The clerk looked confused. We don't have a room 14. What do you mean? It's right here in the confirmation. I showed him again. He put on reading glasses and studied my phone. That's strange. But no, we definitely don't have a room 14. Our rooms go 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, and so on. There's no 14. Probably a typo in whatever third-party system you used. So you skipped 14? Like buildings that skip the 13th floor? Exactly. Old superstition. Original owner back in the 60s didn't want a room 14, so he just skipped it in the numbering. That made sense. Many hotels avoided certain numbers due to superstitions. I took the key to room 23. Checkouts at 11 a.m. Continental breakfast from 6 to 9 in the office here. Anything else you need? I'm good, thanks. I went back out into the rain and drove my car down to the far end of the building where room 23 was located. The exterior stairs were slippery, and I climbed carefully to the second floor. Room 23 was at the end of the corridor, last door on the left. I unlocked it and stepped inside. Standard budget motel room. Double bed, TV bolted to the dresser, small bathroom, window with heavy curtains. It smelled musty but clean. The decor was dated, probably hadn't been updated since the 1980s, but everything seemed functional. I tossed my bag on the bed and sat down to check my email. That's when I noticed something odd. Next to room 23's door was another door. Room 24, presumably. But when I'd been walking down the corridor, I'd counted the doors. Room 23 was definitely the last room. There shouldn't be a room 24. I stepped back outside and looked down the corridor. Sure enough, room 23 was the final door. The building ended there. No room 24. But from inside my room, I'd clearly seen another door next to mine. I went back inside and examined the wall more carefully. There was definitely a door there, painted the same color as the rest of the wall, but visible if you knew where to look. And below the peephole was a room number, 14. Room 14. The room that supposedly didn't exist. I tried the handle, locked. I knocked lightly. No response. This was strange, but not necessarily alarming. Maybe it was a maintenance closet or storage room that happened to have a number on it. Old buildings often had odd layouts. I decided to ignore it and get some sleep. I was exhausted from driving, and I needed to be in Indianapolis by 9 a.m. I set my alarm, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a sound. Knocking. Not on my door, but on the wall. 3 deliberate knocks coming from the direction of that room 14 door. I lay there listening. The knocking came again. 3 measured knocks, paused, then 3 more. Someone was in that room, or someone wanted me to think someone was in that room. I got up and approached the door, pressing my ear against it. I could hear something on the other side. Breathing, maybe. Or just air circulation from the vents. "Hello?" I called softly. The knocking stopped. Silence. I went back to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. The storm had intensified, rain hammering against the windows, wind howling around the building. Every sound seemed amplified and sinister. At 3:30 a.m., I heard footsteps in the corridor outside. Slow, deliberate footsteps, stopping at each door. When they reached my door, they paused for a long moment. I could see a shadow blocking the light coming through the crack under the door. Then the footsteps moved on, continuing down the corridor. But that made no sense. My room was at the end of the building. There was nowhere for those footsteps to go except back the way they came, unless they'd gone into room 14. At 4 a.m., unable to sleep, I got up and grabbed the key to room 23. I looked at it closely under the bedside lamp. The plastic diamond keychain had 23 printed on it clearly. But when I turned it over, I saw something else. Faint scratches in the plastic like someone had tried to scrape something away. And beneath those scratches, barely visible, was another number. 14. My room key was actually for room 14. Someone had modified it, trying to hide the original number. I looked at the door between the rooms again. There was a keyhole. On impulse, I tried my key in it. The lock turned. The door opened. I should have left it closed. I should have gone back to bed and checked out first thing in the morning. But curiosity and exhaustion had impaired my judgment. I pushed the door open and looked inside. Room 14 was identical to room 23. Same layout, same furniture, same outdated decor, but it felt different. Colder. The air was stale, like the room hadn't been opened in years. And there was a smell. Faint, but unpleasant. Something chemical mixed with decay. I flipped the light switch. Nothing happened. The power was out in this room, or the bulbs were all burned out. I used my phone's flashlight to look around. The bed was made, but the covers looked dusty. The TV screen was covered in a thick layer of dust. In fact, everything was dusty, as if this room had been sealed and forgotten for years. On the nightstand, I saw a guest services binder, the kind hotels provide with information about amenities and local attractions. I picked it up and opened it. The pages were yellowed with age, the information hopelessly outdated, restaurant recommendations from the 1990s, phone numbers with old area codes. But tucked into the back of the binder was something else. Photographs, Polaroids, dozens of them, rubber banded together. I spread them out on the bed, my phone light illuminating each one. They were photos of people in this room. Different people, different time periods, judging by their clothes and hairstyles. Some from the 80s, some from the 90s, some more recent. All of them were sleeping in the bed, photographed from the doorway. They didn't know they were being photographed. These were surveillance photos, taken of guests while they slept. And in every photo, barely visible in the shadowy corner of the room, was a figure standing by the window. Too dark to see clearly, but definitely a person. Watching. My hands were shaking as I gathered the photos back together. This was deeply wrong. This room had been used for something sinister, something that involved photographing guests without consent, and possibly worse. I needed to call the police. I needed to get out of this building immediately. I turned to leave and found the door to room 23 had closed. I tried the handle. Locked. From the other side. No, 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 I muttered, pulling on the handle. It wouldn't budge. I was locked in room 14. I tried the main door to the corridor. Also locked. These were the old-fashioned locks that required a key from both sides, and I didn't have a key that worked for room 14's exterior door. I was trapped. I pulled out my phone to call 911, but I had no signal. I tried the room's landline phone. Dead. No dial tone. Stay calm, I told myself. The clerk would be in the office. I could bang on the wall, make noise, get someone's attention. I pounded on the wall separating room 14 from room 15. Help! I'm locked in! Can anyone hear me? No response. I pounded harder, shouting. Then I heard something that made me stop. Footsteps in the corridor again, coming toward my door. They stopped right outside. Hello? I called. I'm locked in room 14. I need help. A voice responded, muffled through the door. Room 14 doesn't exist. It was the clerk's voice, the old man from the office. Yes, it does. I'm inside it right now. Please unlock the door. There is no room 14. You must be confused. I'm not confused. I'm locked in here. Open the door. What room are you in, sir? Room 14. We don't have a room 14. You were assigned room 23. This was insane. He was gaslighting me, pretending the room didn't exist while I was standing inside it. Fine, then I'm in room 23. But I'm locked in and I need you to open the door. Room 23's door is open, sir. I'm looking at it right now. What? That's impossible. The door to room 23 is standing open. The room is empty. Your belongings are here, but you're not. I looked around room 14 frantically. There had to be another way out. The window. I ran to it and yanked the curtains aside. The window looked out onto a parking lot, but not the parking lot I'd seen when I arrived. This lot was empty, and the pavement was cracked and overgrown with weeds. Beyond it, I could see trees and darkness. No other buildings. No highway lights in the distance. Just forest. "Where am I?" I whispered. I tried to open the window. It was sealed shut, painted over multiple times. I could probably break it if I used the chair, but what then? I was on the second floor. Even if I jumped, I'd be running into an unfamiliar forest in the middle of a storm with no idea where I was. The clerk's voice came through the door again. "Mr. Russo, are you all right? Where are you?" "I told you I'm in room 14. "There is no room 14. Please tell me where you actually are so I can help you." I couldn't do this. This back and forth was getting me nowhere. I needed to find another way out. I searched the room systematically. Under the bed, in the closet, in the bathroom, looking for another door, a ventilation shaft, anything. In the bathroom, I found something. Behind the toilet, low on the wall, was a small access panel. I pried it open with my fingers. Behind it was a crawl space, dark and narrow, but large enough to crawl through. I could feel air moving through it, coming from somewhere. I had no choice. I squeezed through the opening and into the crawl space. It was pitch black. I used my phone light to navigate, crawling on my hands and knees through dust and cobwebs. The space was cramped, pipes and wires running overhead. I could hear water running through the pipes and somewhere in the distance, voices. I followed the sound of voices, crawling for what felt like 10 minutes but was probably only 2 or 3. The crawl space opened into a larger area, maybe a maintenance room or basement. I could see light coming from under a door. I crawled to the door and tried the handle. It opened. I emerged into a hallway I didn't recognize. It looked like the motel, same wood paneling, but the layout was different. There were doors on both sides, numbered in a sequence I didn't understand. 14, 14A, 14B, 14C. All room 14s, an entire hallway of them. And standing at the far end of the hall watching me was the clerk. He wasn't old anymore. He looked younger, maybe in his 40s. Same face, but decades younger. He smiled when he saw me. "Welcome back, Mr. Russo. Room 14 suits you." "What is this place?" My voice cracked. "This is where we keep the guests who find the room that doesn't exist. The ones who are too curious. The ones who open doors that should stay closed." "I don't understand." Room 14 was built wrong, you see. Back in 1963 when the motel was constructed. The contractor made a mistake with the dimensions. Created a space that shouldn't exist according to the blueprints. A room that wasn't on the official plans. That's just an architectural error. It doesn't explain any of this, doesn't it? When you create a space that officially doesn't exist, that the world refuses to acknowledge, strange things can happen. It becomes separate, disconnected, and things that are disconnected can drift away from the normal flow of time and space. He started walking toward me, his footsteps echoing in the impossible hallway. We use it for special guests, ones who won't be missed. Traveling salesmen like you, who live out of their cars and hotel rooms. People whose patterns are erratic enough that a disappearance won't be immediately noticed. People will notice. I have a meeting tomorrow. My company will look for me. Will they? You booked through a website that doesn't officially exist, using a confirmation system we don't recognize. You paid cash for the transaction, and according to our records, you never checked in. Room 23 stands empty. Your car will be found in the parking lot, but you'll be gone. It happens all the time. He was right in front of me now. Up close, I could see he wasn't quite right. His skin had an odd texture, almost waxy. His eyes didn't blink. "What are you?" "I'm the original clerk. Been here since 1963. I made the mistake of investigating room 14 on my first night. Just like you. And now I help maintain it. Help it find new guests. It needs to be occupied, you see. Needs people inside it to keep existing. If it stays empty too long, it starts to fade. To really stop existing. The photos, all those people sleeping, what happened to them? They're still here. In the other room 14s. Each one slightly different from the last. Each one existing in its own pocket of disconnected time. You'll join them. You'll be in room 14 forever, sleeping, while we photograph you and wait for the next curious guest to open the door." I bolted, turned and ran back toward the crawlspace entrance, but the door I'd come through was gone. Just solid wall now. The clerk laughed. "There's no way out. This is your room now." I ran down the hallway of impossible doors, trying handles randomly. Some were locked. Others opened onto rooms identical to the one I'd left. All empty, all dusty, all wrong. Finally, I found one door that opened onto a different scene. Room 14X. Inside was a person sitting on the bed. A woman, maybe 30, wearing clothes from the early 2000s. She looked up as I entered, her eyes hollow and defeated. "You're new," she said. "What year is it out there?" 2024. November 2024. She laughed bitterly. "I checked in 2003, 21 years. Has it really been that long?" "How are you still alive?" "Time doesn't work right here. I don't get hungry, don't get thirsty, don't age. I just exist. In room 14, forever. There has to be a way out. There isn't. I've tried everything. This room exists outside normal reality. The only way in or out is through that door you opened, the one connecting it to a normal room. And once you're here, once you're documented in their photographs, the room claims you." "Who's they?" "The clerk said he's been here since 1963. "It's not just him. There are others. Staff members who got trapped over the years. They become part of the motel's system. They help it hunt. They're how it finds new guests." I sat down on the floor, my mind reeling. This couldn't be real. This had to be a nightmare, a hallucination, something explainable. But it felt real. The dust under my hands felt real. The woman sitting on the bed felt real. The fear paralyzing my thoughts felt real. "There must be something we haven't tried," I said. "Some way to break the pattern. I've had 21 years to try. Or maybe it's been one night repeated 21,000 times. I can't tell anymore. Time is broken here." I stood up. "I'm not accepting this. I'm not spending eternity in a room that doesn't exist." I went back into the hallway. The clerk was gone, but I could hear him somewhere in the distance whistling a tune from decades ago. I tried door after door. Most were locked or led to identical rooms. But eventually, I found one that was different. "Room 14 Prime," the nameplate said. Inside, the room looked newer, less dusty. The TV was a modern flat screen. The curtains were fresh, and on the bed was a laptop, still powered on. I checked the screen. It showed a website, the same booking site I'd used to reserve my room, and displayed on the screen was a reservation confirmation for someone else. A guest who would be arriving tomorrow night. Their assigned room, room 14. This was how they lured people in. Through a fake booking site that looked legitimate, that showed up in search results, that took real payments. But every reservation was for room 14, and everyone who stayed there became trapped. I could delete this. I could shut down the website, prevent the next victim from falling into the trap. But would that help me? Or would I still be stuck here regardless? I heard footsteps in the hallway, multiple sets. The clerk and others were coming. I grabbed the laptop and smashed it against the floor. The screen cracked but kept displaying. I smashed it again and again until it went dark. "What have you done?" The clerk's voice, angry now, coming from just outside the door. The room started to shake. Not like an earthquake, but like reality itself was vibrating, becoming unstable. "The connection is broken," the woman's voice called from down the hall. "He broke the connection." The shaking intensified. Doors flew open all along the hallway. People emerged from the rooms, dozens of them, all looking confused and disoriented. Guests from different decades, all trapped in their own versions of room 14. The clerk appeared in the doorway, but he was flickering now, becoming translucent. "You've destroyed it. Destroyed everything we built." "Good," I said. The hallway collapsed. Not physically, but conceptually. The impossible geometry that had held it together unraveled, and suddenly I was falling through darkness, through spaces that shouldn't exist, through the gaps between normal reality and whatever pocket dimension room 14 had occupied. I woke up in my car, parked in the lot of a different motel, a chain hotel off I-70, the kind with interior corridors and bright lighting. My phone showed 6:42 a.m. November 3rd. My alarm was going off, reminding me of my 9 a.m. meeting in Indianapolis. I was still in my clothes from yesterday, cramped from sleeping in the car. Had I ever gone into the Riverside Motor Lodge? Had any of it been real? I checked my email. No confirmation from Riverside. No record of a booking. But my credit card showed a charge for $75.82 to Riverside Motor Lodge, Greenfield Inn. I drove back to where the motel should have been. The gravel driveway was still there, but it led to an empty lot. No building, no sign, just an overgrown field with the foundation of a building visible in the weeds. A local resident was walking their dog nearby. I rolled down my window and called out, "Excuse me, was there a motel here?" Used to be years ago. Riverside Motor Lodge, closed in the mid-2000s. Building was condemned and torn down around 2008, I think. Do you know why it closed? People kept disappearing. Guests would check in and never check out. Police investigated but never found anything conclusive. Eventually, the place got a reputation and nobody would stay there. Owner couldn't keep it running. I thanked them and drove away, heading toward Indianapolis on autopilot. That was 6 months ago. I still have the credit card charge, still have the memory of that night, vivid and terrifying. But I have no proof. No way to verify what happened or if any of it was real. I don't use booking sites anymore. I only stay at major chain hotels where I can see the building clearly before checking in, where rooms are numbered in logical sequences, where everything is documented and official. But sometimes, late at night in whatever hotel I'm staying in, I hear knocking on the wall. 3 deliberate knocks, pause, then 3 more, and I wonder if I really escaped room 14, or if I'm still there dreaming that I got away. Just another photograph in someone's collection of forgotten guests. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more unsettling tales. Drop a comment below. Have you ever stayed in a hotel room that felt wrong? Have you noticed rooms that shouldn't exist, or numbering that skips certain digits? Share your experiences. And remember, before you book your next hotel, verify that it actually exists on official maps. Some places exist in the cracks of reality, waiting for travelers who aren't paying attention. Sleep well.